Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight, commercial free on this Tuesday night. In 2017, former President Trump was brand new to the White House, and the American left was immersed in the most toxic level of fear-mongering our politics has ever seen. Every action Trump took was a threat to democracy. Every word Trump and his allies said was a dog whistle to white supremacy. Every single day was a militant cacophony of supercharged, fear-inducing rhetoric spewing from the Democrat Party and the establishment media that they control. It was non-stop outrage over everything. They lost it after discovering Trump labeled Haiti and other African nations with a phrase that we all remember. Visceral outrage, despite the fact that any Westerner traveling to these places likely would agree with Trump's summation, and people say things like this all the time. But the slightest insensitivity, any statement that wasn't perfectly PC and focus grouped, was just another indication that our president was a dangerous fascist. Remembering those years, remembering all of that manufactured outrage, makes it all the more entertaining to watch these same actors today tiptoeing around the fact that one terror attack in Israel has exposed a new caucus of radical left-wing terror sympathizers and Jew haters that currently have seats in Congress and have massive constituencies holding daily rallies in support of a terror group so despicable and violent that most of the Muslim world wants nothing to do with them. Watch today as John Kirby struggles with condemning his own party and the massive support system for Hamas inside of this country that has shocked us all.
The people in this country making violent anti-Semitic threats, are they domestic terrorists?
I don't know that we're classifying people as domestic terrorists for that. I mean, that's really a question better left to law enforcement. I'm not aware that there's been such a characterization of that.
You know why Kirby had to say that, right? Because what we're seeing right now, beyond just a terrifying look at how radical and how anti-Semitic the far left is, what we're seeing right now is a political disaster for Democrats in 2024. Extremism was the one thing that party had to run on next year. When a large group labeled white nationalists marched through Charlottesville, angry about white replacement and the potential removal of a Robert E. Lee statue 6 years ago, and also revolting against America devolving into a country where statues and history are destroyed as part of a Marxist political cleansing. Well, when we saw that and when we saw these images, the Democrat Party had hit the lottery. It was the best ammunition they had ever had. They've been talking about this day in the summer of 2017 for the last 6 years. Almost every single day they talk about it, trying to attach every single supporter of Donald Trump and most Republicans to what's behind me on the screen. Charlottesville was pay dirt for the Democrat Party, talked about constantly on cable news. Joe Biden claimed that he ran for president because of Charlottesville, even though that's another obvious pandering lie from Biden. It does prove, though, just how valuable that rally was to their political agenda. It became their identity. But it is quite something that after 6 years of condemning white men for marching with torches to protest the removal of a statue and white replacement, there's really not nearly as much outrage over groups much larger than what we saw in Charlottesville popping up all over the country and screaming in support of terrorists who raped young girls, beheaded babies, murdered families, and seemed to support killing off an entire ethnicity of human life. The outrage is just not the same. Isn't that something? The latest acts that we're seeing pop up in the West, Jewish stars being painted on the homes where Jewish people live. We are surrounded by Nazi and terrorist sympathizers, and this has all just come out in the last 3 weeks. And to his credit, Joe Biden has been a strong voice in support of Israel and the Jews these past 3 weeks. Credit where it is due, as always on this show. Biden has been there for the Israeli people 100% and for the Jews 100%. But the White House did show that they're all just political animals at their core when questioned about the radical left's support for terror, murder, and Nazism. Biden's mouthpiece couldn't help herself, couldn't help but attempt to equate all of this despicable things, the behavior that we're seeing right now, of course they had to try and equate it to Charlottesville out of political desperation. Here it was.
Does President Biden think the anti-Israel protesters in this country are extremists?
What I can say is what we've been very clear about this. When it comes to anti-Semitism, there is no place. We have to make sure that we speak against it very loud and be very clear about that. Remember, what the president decided when the president decided to run for president is what he saw in Charlottesville in 2017, when he saw neo-Nazis marching down the streets of Charlottesville with vile anti-Semitic just hatred. And he was very clear then, and he's very clear now.
They've got to hold on to Charlottesville. White nationalism and their manufactured existential threat to democracy that they've been nurturing for years now. The White House not sure if massive mobs of Americans cheering on terror attacks is a threat to democracy. They're not sure about that, though. But not too long ago, the FBI was tracking parents who didn't want their kids reading about gay orgies in the library at their public school. From the House Judiciary Committee, at least dozens of investigations into parents using the threat tag EDU officials. House Judiciary Republicans uncovered the threat tag last year, actively being used by the FBI's counterterrorism division to track investigations related to parents protesting at school board meetings around the country. Anti-terrorism. The FBI had a threat tag for Sally Smith, angry that boys can use her daughter's bathroom. Remember when the FBI was caught juicing the numbers to make domestic extremism seem worse than it really was? Well, now we actually have a major extremist problem in this country coming from the far left. This is legit. And isn't it funny that nobody in power wants to talk about it all of a sudden? And the media is not really too keen on talking about it either. After all, the New York Times sympathizes with it, at least in some extent. Here's one of their contributors who lives in Gaza, who recently tweeted about reports of a Jewish baby found in an oven. He tweeted out, with or without baking powder.